Like, my wife apparently is like super into that movie. She just really loves the idea of the Silver Surfer for some reason.
The Silver Surfer and the new Fantastic Four is a woman, so.
She's weirdly not as excited about that one. How about that?
Oh, poor Joe.
Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Nick, and today we are getting ready for this big July battle at the box office between Fantastic Four First Steps and James Gunn's Superman. And to prepare, we decided to revisit two previous iterations of these films. That would be 1978 Superman the movie and the 2005 Fantastic Four film. So we just both recently rewatched these films, and we're excited to kind of talk about both of those, and of course things to look forward to in these new iterations that are coming out next month. It's gonna be crazy. And yeah, Joe, thoughts? How you doing?
Dude, I'm so hyped for July. I freaking can't wait. I mean, if you've been listening to this show, then you know that we're both Sims for the superhero genre. Despite what our podcast name is, I feel like I almost simp more hard for either a DC or a Marvel movie. And we're getting two of the backbones of those franchises, you know? Hence why we're interested in talking about this what I'm calling, this meta battle between superheroes at the box office, right? Like, you got Fantastic Four First Steps, you've got Superman, but what I find so fascinating about this, Nick, is so Marvel is in a precarious place right now, right? Marvel is in this spot where it was this juggernaut at the box office, right? Like, not only was it killing DC at the box office, it was killing everybody at the box office, right? Endgame happened, it was at this peak, and then the pandemic happened and everything was chaos, right? And since then, it feels like there hasn't been a Marvel movie that's just dominated the box office, right? And there's been this question: are superheroes done at the box office? Well, Thunderbolts came out, and it feels like by at least superhero fans, that was well received. But it did not do gangbusters at the box office, right? So it's still a bit of a question. Is it over for superheroes? Is Marvel's claim to the throne over? So here we are in July. Can Marvel reclaim that throne? Or can DC, starting out its universe yet again with Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy darling James Gunn at the helm, take over and have a new superhero king ruling the box office? Or is it truly over for both of these franchises and we are entering a new age of cinema? I don't know. I am really excited about these films though, Nick, and I am really excited about everything that's happening on the business side of this, right?
Yeah, this is, man, you just summed it up perfectly. So James Gunn's Superman, I have to imagine, is going to be just bigger than the Fantastic Four and the next phase of what the MCU is doing. Because it's Superman. The IP itself is just gigantic, right? Fantastic Four has its place, and the Fantastic Four are awesome, but Superman is, of course, Superman. And this is the beginning of the new DC, so I think people are going to be way more intrigued on what James Gunn's DC actually looks like, right? This is the first real test for him and for them. And of course, Marvel's had a couple still fun movies here in this phase. Thunderbolts was probably the best thing they've done in a while. It was fantastic. But like you said, not a gangbuster box office hit. So where does that leave Fantastic Four? Fantastic Four is a lot more well known. This is now the third time they're making this franchise. People know Fantastic Four. I think that casting is really excellent. I think that helps get people in. There was a little bit of a after credit scene in Thunderbolts to get us ready for this film in Fantastic Four, which we always love when Marvel does that properly. So I think Fantastic Four probably does better than Thunderbolts. Does it beat Superman? I think it's going to be tough. But movie-wise, which one's going to be better? Either way, today we're talking about the OGs, if you will. And really excited to kind of dive in there. Um, Joe, is there anything you want to add before we get into 1978 Superman?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess just to put more like drama into this battle, right? Of the box office, these two titans, right? I think what's so fascinating about it is like what I mentioned earlier. It's like it's back to these basics, right? I mean, you have the Fantastic Four that are considered Marvel's first family, right? And then you have Superman, as you were bringing up, right? Who comes with all this lore and mythos. He's the man of tomorrow, right? When you think of like flagship DC, it's Big Blue, right? It's him. It's Superman, Man of Steel. Uh and yeah, I can't think of a better way for Marvel and DC to like duke out this like battle for supremacy at the box office. I mean, like not only like has DC, tried to capture some of Marvel's magic by, taking James Gunn. James Gunn's taken some of the visual effects teams from Marvel over to DC to help him work on Superman as well. So like there's a lot of like almost bad blood here. Maybe bad blood's a little too dramatic, but like you get what I'm going for here, right? Like there's a lot of, I don't know, is incest too weird?
Yes.
But
There's
there's a lot
anticipation. There's
there's a lot of
anticipation.
anticipation. There's a lot of I guess some team grabbing, right? Some talent grabbing from DC over into Marvel, and I don't know. I'm super hyped. I will say though, Nick, you did hurt my heart when you said Fantastic Four 2005 because I just realized that movie is 20 years old, and I remember when that movie came out.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, it's actually my first thought while watching was like, this still holds up and is actually really, really, really well done. It's a really good superhero movie.
I'm not gonna go that far when we review it. But I will say it is way better than I remembered. It
Yeah.
is way better.
Well, and also like I think I was still remembering the most recent Fantastic Four film, which was atrocious. So
That is a bad
when you
movie.
go into the original Fantastic Four and you're thinking of the remake, you're immediately surprised at how well they did comparatively.
For sure, for sure. I do want to talk more about Fantastic Four, but it does feel like we should start with the granddaddy of them all,
Yes.
the original superhero at the box office.
Yes.
We're talking about 1978's Superman, the movie, starring Christopher Reeves and Gene Hackman as
Yeah.
Lex Luthor. I forgot Marlon Brando's in this movie, and he's like billed as like one of like the principal stars, but like he's in the movie for like maybe 15 minutes
Yeah.
before he checks out,
Right.
and then
his
we get
voice
his
shows
voice
up a couple
later.
times. Yeah, his voice
Yeah,
couple times later. Yeah.
yeah, like the movie, like I don't want to say it made a big deal about him being in it, but like you see Marlon Brando's name, you're like, oh crap, I didn't remember he was in this movie, huh? And then yeah, he's really not that consequential.
Right.
But yeah, 1978, Christopher Reeves, Superman. Nick, what were your thoughts just going into this movie? Have you ever seen it before?
I think I'd never actually seen the whole thing. I think I'd seen pieces. And maybe I'd watched it when I was really young, but I did not remember it. So it was really like watching it for the first time, which 1978 film, watching something like that for the first time can be a little tough depending on what the film is. I will say that the beginning was a little rough for me just from a special effects perspective. Obviously, this movie, like, this is one of those films that took some chances and had some like took like creative liberties and like really kind of invented certain things on that comes like with the special effects that like of its time kind of helped push this special effects space forward. So like I was watching that kind of with like a grain of just like knowledge, trying not to like overly judge it because obviously it's 1978. A couple parts.
Hang on. Maybe you can, because you know what came out a year before that?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars came out a year before that. That
Right.
movie is still heralded for its special effects. Freaking 2001 Space Odyssey came out like, what, 10 years before that? So
Yeah.
maybe you can.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I can. But it more has to do with like the speedster scene at the beginning where like, the young Clark Kent is running next to the train. That was not a good speedster scene. That was
all
not
right. Yeah,
good.
let's talk about that. Do you think someone told Christopher Reeves to run like you've never ran before? Like run like you don't know what to do with your arm. What was that? That was such a
Well,
strange choice.
technically that wasn't Christopher Reeves yet. So because
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we still have teenage Clark
it
Kent
was
at this point.
teenage
My
Clark
bad.
Kent. That was so awkward and not very well done. And also at the very beginning when it opens, right, and we're on Krypton, um, immediately you can tell it's like a built small scale set that they're filming close up.
So I was a bit more forgiving with this one.
And
And I will say I agree with you. Like you can tell it's a built set. However, I actually really loved all of like the design language of Krypton.
yeah,
Um, I thought it looked really, I thought it looked awesome, like from like a 70s sci-fi standpoint, you
agreed.
know?
Yeah, you have to watch it from that perspective. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. It did look really awesome, but it was it's a little jarring that you can tell immediately. You know, like granted, it's 1978. There really isn't they weren't going to build this whole set, right? Like in for real in 1978, although they could have because there was films that earlier did. So they maybe took some I don't know, cut corners is the right word, but maybe they just didn't have the budget for doing that. I don't, anyway.
They blew it all on Brando and
They
Hackman.
blew it all on Brando and Gene, yeah. Uh, but so like the beginning, kind of like there's those moments where you're like, I can tell that they did this, or like the speedster scene looks terrible. The acting not very great at the beginning, but the cool part about this film is once the second Christopher Reeves enters the screen, the whole movie changes. The dude is a legend, and he's a movie star. He's an absolute movie star.
Yeah.
You can tell that the movie, the vibe of the whole feeling of the movie changes. The acting infinitely gets better the second Christopher Reeves is there, and he is Clark Kent, and he is Superman, and he plays it so well, and it's super believable. So, and from that point on, I really enjoyed it. I thought it really actually still holds up pretty well. Minus a couple of those little like flying special effects, which like that's just as good as they could get at that time or whatever they were doing. But it doesn't look awful. It's just you got to you just got to accept it because it's so old.
I do hear you on the special effects thing. I don't think I think most of them I was willing to like overlook. But you're right. There were times where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I know that I'm looking at a miniaturized set right now. So like I like it sucks to compare it to Star Wars, right? But like it came out just a year before. And granted, George Lucas like created an entire visual like special effects company just so he could do Star Wars, right? But I mean it was possible, right? Hell, the company existed. So it's the climax when the fault line has broken and the earthquake is happening and the dam of the flood has broken and you're watching all the rocks tumble and the water like break loose, right? That is so obvious a miniature set.
Yeah,
Looking at it and like I want to believe that in 1978 like I wouldn't have noticed that. In 1978 I probably would have been blown away. But like I don't know, I still look at Star Wars today and I know in my like caveman brain or in my like scholar brain that it's a miniaturized set, but my caveman brain sees it. I'm like, oh, space Death Star, like
yeah,
I'm in it. I feel it.
yeah.
And yeah, that's just not the case with some of these. Some of these visual effects did not hold up through the years. I am curious though, Nick. You said that some of the acting in the beginning wasn't super compelling. Were you referring to the Kryptonians?
No, I mean I'm referring to literally everyone until Christopher Reeves like hits the screen basically.
Oh come on, Jonathan Kent's great. I really love Papa Kent, Pa Kent.
Yeah, he might have been like the saving grace of the opening compared to all the other stuff,
I will say, Mom, Pa Kent. All right, so Martha comes off as a little insane. In the beginning of this movie, where
Yeah,
baby Kal-El shows up
yeah,
and she's like, "It's ours," and like Jonathan's being pretty rational about it. He's like, "We gotta figure out where this baby came from. It's not our baby."
you're
And
right.
she's like, "No, he's our baby."
Yeah,
Like, um, Martha should talk to someone.
yeah.
She's clearly hurting.
Oh man, yeah. And then they have like the what I don't know how old the 12 year the 4-year-old Clark Kent lift up the car or the truck, and then the dad's like, actually, we could use the help on the farm.
Yeah, he's sold after that.
So funny.
My man's rational.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, just put the 4-year-old to work. We'll break all child labor laws here.
it was Kansas was a different time in the
Yeah.
70s.
But yeah, I
Um,
don't know. Like just the acting falls short for sure before that. But and the movie really just it flips the script when Reeves hits the screen. Um,
well, I mean, there's also, I mean, you mentioned that you feel like the movie really starts once Reeves hits the screen, and I think in a technical way that's like very true because like the first hour and like 15 minutes of the movie is just prologue, right? It's everything about Krypton, it's everything about young Clark Kent leading up to him going to the Fortress of Solitude. I mean, the three act structure is like really like evident in this movie, but that prologue, that first act is really long. And it doesn't really feel like the movie starts until that second act, really, when we have him trying to figure out how to be Superman, right? In his new life in Metropolis.
for sure, for sure. Which I thought that Clark Kent and Superman, and then of course with Lois Lane, really great on
Margot Kidder, by the way.
Margot Kidder, thank you. Great
Yeah.
on screen chemistry for those two. Um,
I love her portrayal as Lois Lane. I mean this in the most positive way possible. I love how bitchy she is. It's great. She's
yeah,
so awesome.
super
She
sassy,
just cracks me up. Yeah, super
super
sassy. She
sassy.
she cracks me up, man.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch this film. Gearing up for James Gunn's Superman in a month because I I feel like with James Gunn being the nerd that he is, there's going to be some callbacks to this specific one, and potentially.
Oh, I mean, there already is, right? Like you're the music guy. So we have oh my gosh. Help me out. The score of this movie, famous. He does them all.
John Williams.
John Williams. Yep. John Williams does the score of this movie, and the legendary Superman score. We got a rock and roll version of it in the trailer for the new Superman. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. There are probably going to be a lot of callbacks
Yeah.
to this movie.
Funny that you bring up the score. This is crazy, and I love John Williams. I did not like the score.
You need to leave.
Really?
There's something about the score for this 1978 Superman movie that like doesn't fit. It feels like too cartoony. The score to me, it's so weird. I can't even put my finger on it. It just feels like it's like overly cartoony for the live action film that we're watching. I mean,
that might you might really be onto something there because that might be really reflective of like how people viewed comics back then, right? As not being very realistic, right? And like maybe that score that you're talking about, like that whimsical. I'm thinking specifically of like when him and Lois are like flying, right? That feels like a little cartoony. And I guess some other things too, like Gene Hackman himself like feels like a Saturday morning cartoon villain the entire time.
And then his sidekick Otis is just such a complete dummy. Like,
yeah,
it's very cartoony, Like,
do you think we get a 2025 version of Otis?
I kind of hope so because he's such good comic relief. Maybe not as stupid because it's like he's almost too dumb to be like this
right.
Billionaire bad guy's sidekick. But yeah, the score just like really the whole time I was like, man, I'm not loving this, which is crazy because I don't think I've ever said that about John Williams' score before, but here we are. But yeah, maybe it's just sign of the times, kind of like you thought, right? Back then people didn't have the same, they were thinking more of the unrealistic comic thing rather than like trying to accept the live action part of this and make it like real, in our world. So very interesting. But
I think there is like a and maybe this like speaks to like the overall mythos or attraction like around Superman that it feels like this movie like tries to capture that the idea of a Superman existing does feel fantastical, right? And I think they really capitalize on that in two scenes. The first being Lois and Clark's flight, their date night in the sky. Which as far as effects go, it doesn't look super fantastic, but like I still love that scene. It's a great scene.
It's still fun, for sure.
It's still fun. And then of course the end where he's still experimenting with his powers and decides he's going to reverse time in a very comical way. But it almost fits the cartoonish logic of the movie, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you have like these two different like fantastical scenes, and Superman is this character of not like insane power, or like of power greater than our own, but like he's a limitless character, right?
Yeah.
Like there are no boundaries
Right.
for Superman.
And the movie ends up being a secret superhero time travel film. Because I wasn't
Okay,
expecting it. Which we should have drafted this in our time travel draft, which we'll pin that card to the video.
I
so
knew
you know
this
the
was
hell
gonna
we're
come up. I absolutely knew this was gonna come up. Yeah. So for our second time travel draft, we're gonna have to put this in the pool. I don't know if anyone's gonna pick it, but we have to. It was neglected.
It's
in the
crazy that
first
this ends
one.
up being a secret superhero time travel film. Fits two categories that we have in our
Yeah,
time travel.
fits two categories.
Unbelievable.
Outrageous.
Absolutely outrageous. Anyway, I think we should move on to Fantastic Four, unless you have any other quick thoughts or something you wanted to bring up about this.
Just one. We keep talking about him, but we really haven't said anything about him. Gene Hackman. He's Gene Hackman, right? R.I.P. And I he's just so outrageous in this movie, and like it's very clear that he's having a great time.
It's open. Come in.
I have nothing more to say than just that. I loved every second he was on screen. I love that he's just like he's so proud to be a criminal, like, and he just like lets everybody knows that he's this great criminal,
Yeah.
even though he's just been arrested. Like,
And yeah, like
I love it.
he's inside the jail, and Superman brought him there, and he's like, Lex Luthor, I'm the greatest criminal alive. Except I've been captured.
Right, he's just owning up to it. He's just like, yeah, it's me. Yeah, it's fantastic. I
and
love
it's
his
just-
stupid lair.
It's too comic booky. I think that's it's comic booky, right? Like you think of the past Lex Luthors we've had, and it's like nothing like very serious, very opposite. So yeah, it'll be cool to see what James Gunn's Superman and what James Gunn's Lex Luthor are.
That is Nicholas Hoult.
Yes. I'm excited.
Who
He's awesome.
Yeah, this feels like I think this will be his biggest movie. I've really enjoyed him in what I've seen. I've only ever seen him be a principal actor one time, and that was oh my god, what was it? Juror number 2 or Juror number 3? It's something like that. Which kind of felt like it was 12 Angry Men again, but but he was pretty good in that movie. I'm excited to see him get a starring role.
Yeah, well, he also, I mean, in X-Men, you know, he plays Beast too, which like he has a lot of screen time,
Camera time, yeah, a lot of camera time.
And I always remember him specifically from Mad Max.
What a lovely day!
He's awesome in that film too, and not as much screen time, but anyway, yeah. But it'll be cool to see him in this, playing like, you know, basically the main villain here. So we'll see.
After, just as a closing thought here on Superman, how'd you feel when the movie was over? Just as far as like Superman, how'd you feel about the character? How'd you feel about it as a movie for the time?
I think for the time it was, it's. I think it was solid. I think it was great. Really, definitely took some chances with like what they were doing effects wise. It's not one of those older films that I am gonna rush to rewatch, though. You know, like I probably will never watch it again. Like, it's good. It was cool. It was enjoyable. I'm glad I saw it. It's important for like the history of DC and the history of Superman and the history of film and cinema, right? Like, but it's not so groundbreaking to me that I'm going to like revisit it later, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's important for the progression of superhero films and all of that, but it's not something that needs to be. I don't think it deserves like insane praise.
You wouldn't put it in a top 5 superhero film list,
Right? Not at all. Not even close.
I think you give it some good kudos though in like paving the way for superhero movies. I will say, like, I would love to know what the sales of Superman comics were prior to this movie versus after. Superman to this day remains the most sold comic book in the entire world, which is insane considering its long run time, right? what I'm trying to say is this character is just very important to a lot of people. This movie obviously made Superman accessible even more so than the comics did. So it's easy to see how this character has become so beloved over the years, and I think the movie did do a good job. While the movie is flawed itself, I think it's very good to Superman. Christopher Reeves lives up to the Man of Steel.
Yeah. Love that. That's a great synopsis. Let's go to the first family. Fantastic Four.
First family of Marvel.
Give me your
like
initial thoughts on the 2005 Fantastic.
All right, I'm gonna keep this as brief as I can. All right, so I went in this movie believing that it was horrible. I was pleasantly surprised that it's not. It's honestly a pretty solid film.
It is.
Yeah, like the story, like it's a little goofy, but like overall, it's fine. I would say like my biggest complaint about the movie is like it doesn't really do anything groundbreaking, visually or story wise or acting wise. Most of the movie I think is just kind of uninspired. The comedy is mostly solid except for Ben Grimm's like weird one-liners that he like it's even worse in the second movie. I don't know why they keep making him do it.
Yeah.
He's just a cliche machine.
It's about to destroy our planet in less than 24 hours. Did I miss anything? We'll sit ducks. This ought to be fun.
But honestly, mostly pretty solid. I loved the portrayals of Reed, the Thing, Johnny Storm. I'm convinced that there hasn't been a bad Johnny Storm on camera yet. Sue and Victor are a little rough and a little disappointing, but that's basically my quick synopsis.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Chris Evans is fantastic comic relief.
He's the best part.
He's the best part of the movie for sure. He's hilarious. Effects-wise, like you said, nothing really groundbreaking, but from a practical effects perspective, that is really cool. Ben Grimm, the Thing, was they basically, it was like a prosthetic he was wearing. The whole, like, he's essentially in this like suit that they created, and then they touched it up with digital effects. So that's why I think that really shows, and that's a really cool thing. But I'll see myself out. I just did that. Anyway, so that was cool. But yeah, nothing really groundbreaking special effects wise. Really, honestly, what you said about the characters and the actors, like I had the same thought. I like that the movie, it moves really quick at the beginning.
Yeah, it does.
It's like the differences between
does not waste time.
Yeah, the differences between 1978 Superman and Fantastic Four 2005 is that like the first hour, like you said, in 15 of Superman the movie, so much backstory, right? And Fantastic Four wise, like we're basically like 20 minutes in, we're already in space. They're getting hit with the storm, and then like 30-40 minutes in, they're getting their powers, and then the last like hour and 20 minutes is like them just like figuring out how to use their powers and then also stop Victor Von Doom, basically. So
it's kind of amazing actually how similar this movie is, like beat for beat, with like Spider-Man, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Right.
It's like if you like put both of them in like an outline, like it's almost the same beat structure.
Yeah. When did Sam Raimi's Spider-Man come out?
I want to say that was 2001 or 2002.
Okay, so before, so that would make sense. Why?
Yeah.
It's like we're just gonna take the Spider-Man thing and like do the same thing with.
I mean, it made $1 bajillion,
Yeah.
so makes sense.
No, but
yeah,
and it was honestly, it was good. It's the best Fantastic Four movie so far. So
yeah,
that they,
I wholeheartedly agree.
So
with that.
and yeah, and it's still it is rewatchable. I think, right? It still holds up.
Yeah.
Now,
if I saw it on TV, I would keep it on.
Right. The hope, though, is that the Fantastic Four First Steps that's coming out in July is infinitely better than anything that has come
Marvel
out.
Needs it to be infinitely better.
That is the hope, and I would love that to be the case, right? I think the cast is fantastic. I like clearly it's going to be a different like universe that we're in, right? Of the multiverse, and so I think that's going to help it a little bit. That's going to be really cool. And yeah, I hope that that's the case. Like, and like you said, Marvel really needs it to be a hitter. It needs it because I think it's well, we know it's super important for this next phase because Victor Von Doom is going to be played by none other than RDJ. So we gotta. That's right. It's gotta be good.
It's gotta be good.
Gotta be good.
I will say I have high hopes for this movie. I think it's going to be great. I think it'll be fantastic, dare I say.
You need to leave.
I will say I think Superman has a slight advantage, even with DC's troubled like credibility. I was bringing up before, like the amount of accessibility Superman's had through the decades, and I think like in that accessibility, Superman has seen more successes with the mainstream than Fantastic Four ever has. I think at best, you brought it up, this 2005 movie is probably the most accessible mainstream has had to the Fantastic Four, and even with that, they're kind of still viewed as pretty goofy, instead of like that cool factor
Right.
or that interesting factor.
Yeah, and honestly, the James Gunn, with the success he had with Guardians in the MCU, like it's a fresh start for DC, like truly a fresh start for DC, and his track record is so good with those last movies that everyone is going to watch this Superman. They want to know, like, are we going to get the DC that we deserve, that is going to set it up properly, like Marvel has done over the last 20 whatever years, right? Like, is this what we're going to do? And hopefully the answer is yes. And this is the first test. And honestly, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Fantastic Four to go up against them. I think Marvel's on its way back up. I think everyone is like ready for this next phase, but Fantastic Four's got to do some numbers. We'll see. I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous for him about it because I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be awesome. But it's a battle.
To shift back into the 2005 movie really quick, I guess like in comparing it with the 2025 movie, I mean, I am assuming that our plot is more interesting than just Victor Von Doom just wants to kill the Fantastic Four, which like that's what I'm kind of talking about, like
Right.
the movie being kind of uninspired. Like there's nothing really ambitious anywhere in the movie itself. I mean, even like think of like Ben Grimm's story arc. His story arc is, I'm ugly. I don't want to be ugly anymore. Like that's, and then like the end's like, I love who I am on the inside. Like that's it. That's the height of acting that we get from this movie. Victor Von Doom is just evil. He's just evil. Like that's it. Dude, freaking Julian McMahon. I mean, like, I'm sure he just did what he was told to do, which was just be evil. But like, I don't know, man. I did not care about him being Victor Von Doom at all. I will say, we was talking about Spider-Man earlier. Dude, talk about beat for beat. He's just an iteration of William Dafoe's Green Goblin. Rich scientist, goes crazy, wants to kill the hero,
I'm something of a scientist myself.
That's how they're written in the comics, Joe.
No, that's the worst part. Victor Von Doom is like the most interesting Marvel comic character. When done properly, he's awesome. He's hilarious. He can be hilarious. He can be menacing. He's great. And like this character was I'm just bad.
Well,
I'm just bad.
That's probably why they cast Robert Downey Jr. so that we can get all of those things you just mentioned properly. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't. Well, that's still. We're not going to talk about that. But that is such a. Just.
You know what I think?
That's a move. What do you think?
All right. This is another Joe Hail Mary. I think RDJ is obviously going to be Doctor Doom. They told us as much, but like, I think he's going to be Doctor Doom just as far as like these movies go, right? Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars. I do think that there is like another Doctor Doom in play. I don't know who. I have literally no reason to think this, but I can't believe that RDJ will continue to be Doctor Doom in the future, and like I can't believe that Marvel, if they have plans beyond Secret Wars, which I assume they do, I can't believe that they would be ready and done with Doctor Doom so fast. So my hope is that RDJ, similarly to, oh my God, what's his name? Jim from The Office, John Krasinski. Similarly to John Krasinski playing Mr. Fantastic in like one movie, that there is another Doom in play at some point down the road.
Interesting.
No.
Interesting.
Just a thought.
We'll see. Speaking of Fantastic Four stuff, the cameo in Fantastic Four 2005.
We're talking about Stan Lee.
We're talking about Stan Lee, baby.
Stan Lee.
I forgot.
Yeah,
I
that was
completely
great.
forgot he had a cameo in it. It was so nice to see him.
It is nice to see him.
This is so cool.
Although I will say, like, this cameo way better than his cameo in Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, where he can't get into the wedding and they're kicking him out. Why are we being mean to Stanley? Don't be mean to Stanley. I don't like seeing that.
Did you like watch the Silver Surfer right after this? Like,
I did. My wife actually was like, my wife apparently is like super into that movie. She just really loves the idea of the Silver Surfer for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because a naked guy on a board. I have no idea.
Well,
but she loves the Silver Surfer.
Well, the Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four is a woman, so
she's weirdly not as excited about that one. How about that?
Oh, poor Joe. All right, we're getting off. We're getting out of whack here. What else? Anything else? Like I don't have much else on the Fantastic Four film from 2020 or 2005. Solid, fun.
That should tell you a lot, considering how much we talked about Superman.
Right. Well, no, it's just, it was fun. It was cool. It's the best one they've made. Hopefully, this one in July kicks its ass because it's honestly it shouldn't take much. So,
it should not take much.
Like we'll see.
I guess just on some final notes, I hope that I know it's tough, but I hope that the entire cast, like the whole foursome, right? I hope that they all get like good character arcs, that they're all actually interesting. I hope that Sue is more than just the girl, Yeah. I hope Ben is more than just I'm ugly, but on the inside I'm beautiful, Yeah, like it already looks like it's gonna be more than that. I will say watching the Human Torch in the original movie is just always fun. If you were picking the better film between these movies, what would you say?
Fantastic Four.
It's funny, I would say Superman. I will give you that I would probably watch Fantastic Four sooner than I would watch Superman, but it's only because I could watch it with my brain sleeping.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to think about it. I could just throw it on.
Right. Yeah.
I think Superman is the more ambitious movie, even if it's way slower in pace. And I would sooner watch Fantastic Four again. I think it's probably the better film.
That's fair. It's just Superman the movie is a little tough.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely not for everybody these days with our quick ADHD. It's long.
It's 1978.
And that beginning,
get me out of there.
That beginning is slow.
Yeah, it is. But
Fantastic Four is a more fun time. Yeah. It's way more fun.
So, please let us know if you've watched these two movies recently. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you're excited about for James Gunn's Superman and for Fantastic Four First Steps. That's coming out next month. In the meantime, coming up on the podcast, we are continuing our time travel draft. The next film is going to be Arrival. This is Joe's pick. So we're talking about Arrival. Past that, The Old Guard 2 comes out on Netflix first week of July. So we're going to be talking about that. And then after that, of course, Superman. James Gunn's Superman comes out. And we'll be discussing that in the middle of July. And hit that subscribe button. Throw us a comment. Follow us on Threads where we're talking about everything that's streaming in between. And until next time, my friends.
May the review be with you.
Peace.